Hello and welcome to Find Your Freedom, a podcast dedicated to helping you truly find freedom in all aspects of life. Join your hosts and their expert guests as they share practical tips and strategies for finding more freedom in your life. It's time to take control of your life and create the future you want. Let's find your freedom. Here are your hosts, Lenny the Boss and Omid Rad Investor.
Boom. We are back with another episode of Find Your Freedom, and we have an awesome friend guest to the show today. But before we get into him, you know, we have an absolute free item for you. It's a Freedom Kit, easily downloadable. All you have to do is go to www.findyourfreedom.com/freedom kit. Once again, www.findyourfreedom.com/freedom kit. You know, I'm messing that all up, but you get it. So with that being said, man, let's just jump into our guest. All right, we have a guest on here today. He has a background in wealth management. He started his investing at a very young age. He says at 24, to me, he looked like he's still 24, so we got to get into what he's drinking these days because I need some of that. He currently have a portfolio in Chicago, North Carolina, West Palm Beach, Hollywood. He also was just telling us about this badass place that he's about to go out and rent, next week. So looking forward to that. He also is a partner in the Lux co-host, which is going to gross over $1.2 million this year. So I'm super eager to get into my boy Austin's story. So Austin, welcome to the show, man. How you feeling?
Feeling great. Lenny the Boss, thank you for having me on. Omid, good to see you as well. I'm super excited to get into this today. It's been way too long since I've seen you both, so this is gonna be a fun little episode that we put on here. Looking forward.
Absolutely. So for the listeners, man, Austin's a really cool dude. Like if you ever get to meet him, you're just going to be, I don't admit this that often, but he might just be cooler than me, right? I get him. I told him today, right before this show, I said, man, I didn't know if I was supposed to dress up in a shirt and tie on my Find Your Freedom shirt because that Austin is just that kind of dude. But hey, Austin, for the listeners, man, can you just give them a little background on yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So let me just start from the beginning if that's cool with you two. So when I graduated college, I had a job set up after in Chicago, Illinois for a wealth management development program. And before I moved up there, I had a 6-month stint before my position started. So I was valeting cars at like a local place here in Jupiter, Florida, which is like north of West Palm Beach, if anybody's familiar. And on my slow nights, I would listen to a podcast that I'm sure a lot of people have heard of called BiggerPockets. And I just started listening and learning as much as I possibly could. So 6 months later, move up to Chicago, start working in wealth management. And it was only probably like 3 months into my first job out of college that I realized that I really want to do something else, right? I don't want to stay in this corporate America life for the next 40 years and retire. But that really, like, the aha moment came one day when I was going from the train in the loop to my job. And I'm just looking around at everybody that's doing the same thing as me. People that are my age, people are in the 40s, 50s, 60s. And it just kind of clicked to myself. And I told myself, I'm going to figure a way out. And I'm going to do it as quickly as possible. So the next few months or whatever, I'm trying to recreate the wheel, create a new business, try to figure my way out of it. And then I just realized, well, real estate, the blueprint's already there. People have been doing this for hundreds of years. I can just follow that blueprint and probably going to be the fastest way to get out of it. So kept on listening to BiggerPockets, started analyzing different deals. And then probably, I would say 3-4 months after I started that whole process, I went under contract on my first property, which was a triplex in Chicago. And I was able to utilize a 5% down conventional loan. So I rehabbed that complete property myself. And then within 5 months after me buying that property, I was able to refinance a significant amount of cash out of that and then use that to start rolling into future deals. So just a little bit of background about myself, but happy to jump into any questions that you guys may have.
All right, Austin. So I heard that you rehabbed it yourself. All right. So for the listeners, real quickly, Austin is probably like one of the best looking guys in the real estate space right now. So when I met him, he was well dressed. So like Lenny came in a blue suit, and I feel like Austin had like some sort of like gray, modern, well fitted suit. So clean hand. You look like a clean hand, like ready to do deals. Same thing, like wealth management kind of sort of aura about him. And so let's talk about that a little bit. So doing that particular deal. So I guess why the triplex, and like what I guess maybe like inspired you to kind of get started in that, I guess, in that sort of niche.
Yeah, for sure. So when I was up there, I now invest in short-term rentals. But when I was up there, I didn't really know that much about short-term rentals, and BiggerPockets at that time was really pushing multifamily during that time frame. So I was like looking at the numbers, and I figured if I could buy a duplex and it had the basement option to create like additional unit, that was going to be the highest ROI or highest return on my investment moving forward. So I was looking for duplexes that had a separate basement entrance, one in the front and then one in the back. And I was able to eventually get that rezoned for a triplex in the long run, because that first deal I was able to like purchase that property for only $320,000. So very little money out of pocket. And then whenever you get it rezoned, I mean, you're pretty much adding another unit, which at that time was $120,000 worth of value. So that was my whole thought process whenever I was analyzing deals. So I utilized Redfin, Zillow just to find that deal, had my criteria set up. And then for those that don't know, it's directly tied to the MLS. So you don't really need an agent or a broker to work with as long as you know what you're looking for.
That's awesome. And I kind of want to back this story up a little bit, because I think you said something that is extremely valuable on why you are where you are today from your starting. So you said you was valeting cars, right?
Yeah.
And, so how old were you around that time valeting cars?
Yeah, I was probably 22.
Okay, so you're 22. So you're about 22 years old. And any normal 22-year-old on their downtime, like we're scrolling through Instagram, we're scrolling through, Facebook, but you decided to take that time and listen to a podcast, which is huge, right? Like, what inspired you to listen to a podcast during your off time and not just do what normal 22-year-olds would do?
Yeah, I think that's honestly a really good question, but I think it really boils down to the fact that I always wanted more out of this life, right? Like everybody has a vision of what their life looks like and what they want to achieve out of this life. And I wanted to be able to get there as quickly as possible. I'm a very impatient person when I was growing up, and now I'm learning to have more patience as I get older. But so I just wanted to have it as quickly as possible, Lenny. So, I mean, I had my fun in college, don't get me wrong. I partied, I drank, I had tons of fun. But when I graduated college, I kind of like woke up a little bit, and I just said, all right, well, this fun's passed. Like, you need to figure out what you're going to do with your life. Like, how are you going to actually achieve these goals, these cars, these houses, like this future that you really want? And that was like the first thing that I could grasp onto. So that's kind of how I landed there.
So let's talk a little bit about your transition. So you do your triplex, and then you mentioned that you transition into short-term rentals. So kind of like walk us through kind of how you discover short-term rentals and kind of like where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first short-term rental I bought was down here in West Palm Beach, Florida. So at that time, I had just moved down to West Palm from Chicago, and I'm looking for multifamily down here. And the numbers just don't work. The appreciation that we've had in South Florida has been insane for multifamily. Usually the multifamily are in the best locations. So my agent at the time had a short-term rental herself, and she would show me her numbers, and she was absolutely killing it. Remember, she was like grossing $150,000. And I was just like, all right, in Chicago, I was cash flowing about $2,000 a month. I just want to cash flow $2,000 a month. And she's just like, Austin, you're probably going to cash flow $4,000 or $5,000 on this one house. So I was just like, all right, well, we have to do this. We have to move as quickly as possible. And from there, I found a house, just same thing on Redfin, hit the market, put an offer that same day. And then from there, the ball was rolling. So got that one in West Palm Beach, and then 4 months later, got another one in that same neighborhood. And then after that, I bought North Carolina, and then I bought Hollywood from there. So just I try to buy something every like 4 to 5 months, and just do that as quickly as possible. So the one that I bought in the first short-term rental had a like a unit in the back, so I was able to like live in that actual unit, still put down 5%, and then short-term rental the actual house itself. So it allowed me to leverage another low down payment. So I utilized that strategy. So it worked out really well.
No, that's smart. And I want to stay there for a little bit, because the big thing, I was at my son's football game, and one of the parents came over to me and, asked me a question about, how do they get into, real estate, and how do where the money come from and all this good stuff. And the strategy that you're using, is absolutely amazing, right? Is that, you're taking advantage of multifamily properties and moving in them, and putting down a very, very, very low down payment, as long as the overall numbers is going to work. So I guess during your journey, like, where did you find that? Who educated you? Like, is this, your mentor, BiggerPockets, just continuing to educate you here? Or is there someone that kind of put their arm around your shoulder and showed you the way?
Yeah. Everybody always says like it's great to have a mentor, and I've always wanted a mentor, but I've never really been able to like find one. But I just do so much self-education myself. I read a lot of books. I'm on BiggerPockets, posting on the forums at least once a week. I'm listening to podcasts too, not as much as I used to, but I think that's really where the ball got rolling. I guess you could say a lot of the people, BiggerPockets or the meetups I went to, were all my mentors. But I just kind of like leveraged their education, their knowledge, like within like a very quick time frame of, I would say, maybe like a year to 18 months, and grasp all that knowledge, and then just like push that into like my own real estate deals. So just leveraged everything that they learned and just kept on moving on from there.
So I like that concept of kind of having a Cliff Notes version of other people's education, other people's knowledge. And you mentioned it really well. It's, go to meetups, go to the forums. I think that's a great way to learn quickly. And just because nobody has time to, and then of course you have other people who study more than anybody else, but never take action. So I like that you're a guy that's impatient, because you want to take action and you want to kind of get the ball rolling and moving forward. So let's talk a little bit about like picking markets, because I think that's like the $1 million question. People always ask, where do I buy? Where do I buy? And I think there's so many levels of sophistication involved in that. But maybe like talk through the process, like, you're local in West Palm, but like as you maybe purchase outside of that area, like what prompted you to go to those markets?
Yeah, absolutely. So for example, like how I found Hollywood, Florida. So what I did is I went on, let me give away a little nugget right now. I went on Airbnb, and I looked for 3 to 4 bedroom houses that were making over $500 in slow season, right? So if they're making $500 in slow season, they should be making like $1,000 in high season. And then I had the areas on Airbnb, and then what I did is I went on Redfin and put a purchase price of $600,000 or less, and then I was able to see which houses were within those areas under 600,000 that should be grossing over $100,000. And then from those actual neighborhoods, I would then take that actual address, plug it into AirDNA, and then if it's showing over 100 grand, then I can go back into Airbnb and pull those actual comps again and see if I can make the actual property that I'm going to purchase as similar to those houses that are hitting those numbers currently.
Dude, that was like listeners have to like rewind that. That is gold right there. So, listeners, please, I think I think a lot of people do all sorts of different type of underwriting models. And I think that's an amazing way to do it.
Yeah, and it is, it's, I love it. So, I took a little notes on it, and it's interesting because, what I teach for the long-term rental strategy is very similar, just kind of asking them the question of how much money you want to make, and kind of go back and look at the rents versus, how much your buying power is. And then you can 100% know you're going to make this much money, in that market. So I totally understand. So one of the cool things I heard you say is that, you have a goal to buy buy a property every 4 to 5 months, right? So you're scaling pretty quickly. So with that being said, like, where's the money coming from, man? Are you partnering up with people? Are you doing other different types of strategies when it comes to loans? Can you just share just a little bit of insight on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that 4 to 5 months was probably like a year ago. Now, probably buying like 1 or 2 a year now. But pretty much how I'm financing these are just DSCR loans, like moving forward. So debt service coverage ratio for people that don't know. So as long as the long-term rents will cover like the actual PITI, which is principal, interest, taxes, insurance, then you can usually get approved for a DSCR loan for a short-term rental basis. Usually put 20-25% down or so, depending on which lender that you go with. But in the beginning, it was honestly my own money. So I was just refinancing the first property, refinancing the second property, and it was a decent amount of cash that I was pulling out, $150,000-$200,000. And with the market appreciating so much, it just worked out in my favor. So I do have some partners that I invest with that have extra cash too. So just depending on like how I end up structuring the deal with them, they get a portion of the equity as well as the cash flow, and I pretty much just manage everything from there. So pretty much my own money from my refinancing as well as a little bit of money from outside investors too.
So walk us through. So I mean, you're an investor, but I think you're more than an investor. Like, what are other things that you do as you've kind of really gone into the space? And I know, like you might be on the sales side as well as like the management side. So kind of walk us through the process as far as like how you decided to do those things as well, and maybe how that helps you to be even a better investor.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question, because I think where the market is today, interest rates are higher. So people that still wanted to get into short-term rentals, and maybe they don't see like the numbers penciling out as well as they did 2 years ago, which is what I'm seeing. I'm sure you guys are seeing as well. You can look into something called co-hosting, right? And for those that do not know co-hosting, pretty much what it is you're managing the property, the short-term rental, Airbnb, Vrbo, for somebody else that just doesn't have the time to do it. So at the beginning of this year, I was really like playing with the idea because there's a significant amount of cash flow behind it. You don't really need any money out of pocket. You just need the time, right? You just need to invest your time to find clients and manage the actual property itself. So beginning of this year, I was playing with the idea. I was getting all of these clients, but I didn't have a integrator to bring everything together, right? I needed somebody to run the operation side of things. So I was talking to one of my friends at the time that we were going to buy this hotel in Maggie Valley this time last year. I was just going over everything with her, and she was just like, hey, like, I'm happy to take on that position, and we would work really well together. So right now, so I'm running the sales and the marketing side of things, and she's running all operations. So it's really a great mix, right? Because if you're a great salesperson, but you can't like keep your clients happy, then the business is going to end up like fumbling, if you will. And so I decided to take on co-hosting at the beginning of the year. So we've been doing this. Tomorrow marks 90 days for me and her, the time that we partnered together. And right now we have about 16 clients like with us just in that short period of time. So moving pretty quickly. So if you don't have the money to invest, or if the numbers aren't working for you and you want to co-host, it's definitely a great way to get started for sure.
Awesome. So, someone's going to listen to this episode. They're going to say, man, Austin sounds like he got it together. And, I really want to get into this real estate, but I have zero money. So the co-hosting thing sounded very intriguing to me. But I don't know what to do. Like, I understand that I got a good personality. I might even have an operational background. But, how do I engage? How do I find? How do I talk to people? What markets do I look in? What's good? What's bad? Like, can you give just like some high-level tips on how a person can go out there and start?
Yeah, for sure. I take a very unique approach. So a lot of people they'll target long-term rentals, and they'll just run the numbers as a short-term rental, and call the owner and explain to the owner how much money they can make as a short-term rental with them managing it for them. So I do something a little bit different. So I'm pretty good, I think, at cold calling. So what I'll do is I'll scrape data from the MLS for long-term rentals that are furnished, that are very luxury, high-end properties down here in South Florida. And I'll cold call the broker and just say, hey, look, has the owner ever considered doing like a short-term rental, making this an Airbnb, so on and so forth? And what's great about this strategy or this tactic is those brokers that are like renting those houses, that's not really where the majority of their cash comes from. Majority of their cash comes from selling $10 million, $20 million, $30 million properties. And they're just doing it as a favor to the actual client of theirs. So they're more than happy to make the introduction because it's freeing up their time in the long run, right? So they're just like, yeah, sure. They love to do that because then they don't have to show the actual house. They don't have to like take calls from people. And they're just like, hey, Austin, yeah, sure. I'll make the introduction for you. And then that's when we go into our pitch. Hey, look, these are the numbers that you can potentially see. If you want to use the house yourself eventually one day too, you still have it. You have the ability, and then you're not getting that much wear and tear on the property with a long-term tenant. Yeah.
No, I think, wow, that's really cool. So first I want to go back up. So you said you had 16 clients in 90 days. Wow. I think people who are maybe in the space don't realize the context of that, but that takes quite a while to kind of build that sort of portfolio. So, congratulations to you. I think, you're doing a great job with regards to your process. So let's say you have this discussion. How do you determine like what your box is in terms of like what clients you'll take on and what you don't? And how do you make that assessment? And how do you communicate that to like a prospect?
Yeah, definitely. So I think one of the biggest things that I'm starting to wrap my head around since like the start of this year is like branding. Like what is our brand? So our company is the Lux Co-host. What does the Lux Co-host stand for? And what properties are actually going to fit like our criteria? So the minimum one is the property has to gross at least $85,000 a year for it to make sense for us to take on. And the second thing is like it actually has to look like somewhere that me or my partner would want to stay at. Like it has to be like high end, well put together, potentially a designer in there, so on and so forth. If it just looks like a killer like a $2 million property on the water, but like for example, we had this property, $2 million on the water, Fort Lauderdale. Went to go see it the other day. Incredible pool hall, 4 bedrooms, 3 bath, and it just looked like a frat house inside. And I'm just like, all right, man, like this property, like definitely kill it. And he's making over $100,000 right now, but he just put in some design, and potentially be for 4150. Like, so I tried to call him this morning, waiting for him to call me back, and I'm just gonna explain that to him. But we won't take that on if it stays looking like a frat house. We're past the frat days. That was college.
Dude, you're too mature for 24, man. At 24, I was still, in that college mentality to a degree, but that's awesome.
That's funny. So, all right. So I guess some of your criteria here is that it got to gross at least $85K or more, right? And, you also mentioned it must not look like a frat house.
Yeah.
As a criterion. But I guess, like, how did you, 2 questions here. One, why 85? And then the second question is, how do you have those conversations with an individual who, got a $2 million property on the water, got everything he needs, but the design needs to be updated, which is going to come with a cost, right? So how do you have those conversations?
Yes. So Lenny, another great question. Like, so Lenny, Omid, we're experts in this space, right? Like, there's not many more people that know more about what we do. We talk about it every single day. You have a podcast right here. We're experts. So I think it really just boils down to your confidence at the end of the day. Like, look, like there's nobody else in South Florida that runs a management company that also invests in short-term rentals, that's inside and outside of this every single day, that even coaches on short-term rentals. So when you pitch it that way and you explain that to them, the value that you're bringing, it pretty much just opens the door. Like once you start second guessing yourself in that conversation, that's when they start getting nervous and they don't like trust you. But if you're just fluid in that conversation from the beginning and you know your stuff, like you actually do, and you explain that to them, it's seamless. It's a seamless transition because everybody wants to work with an expert in whatever field it may be, doctor, dentist, lawyer, whatever it is. And we are the experts in the short-term rental. So I just tell myself that whenever I go to that conversation with a client that has $2 million, right? Because they're usually pretty wealthy. And I think my background in wealth management kind of helps me with that, with those different conversations. I just see everybody as who they are, just people, right? Or people that want to have a good conversation. And they want to do business with people they like. So just being friendly as well.
Excellent.
So, yeah, no. So, okay. So let's say you talk to somebody, they're interested, and what if they need just a little bit of work done? So is that something that you guys manage, like as far as overseeing like a rehab or a redesign, or is like how do you help with that process? And then also, let's say that's all said and done, and then how do you charge like a client moving forward?
Yeah, so there's two different avenues of that question. So the first one is if they're buying a property, like we're working with somebody that's raising like I think it's like $100 million for their fund right now. So they're just buying a lot of single family homes in Fort Lauderdale, and they want to make them vacation rentals. So with that, we recommend, if they're spending that much money, we recommend like the designer that we would work with on our own properties, which is Bridget Bitch, her Instagram handle. Yeah. So I would definitely recommend her.
She does great work.
Yeah, incredible. It's just like, I think it's just like the attention to detail, right? The different contrasts that she brings to the table. And then if it's somebody that already has a property and they don't want to spend that much money, we would just source a local designer in the market that could just like touch up, maybe go to Home Goods, find a few different items, make it more approachable. And then maybe like a budget of like, I don't know, $15,000, $20,000 or so along there.
That's great. Nice. That's great. So I want to get back into, I want to stay here, but I also want to get back into this individual who really want to get into the real estate, right? So once again, they're hearing everything sounding great. You know, they got to be full of confidence within themselves, communicating with people. You got to have, certain numbers and criteria that you're going through. So how much time are you actually spending on, I guess, co-hosting? So for an individual that's saying, hey, I got a job, right? And I'm looking to obviously bring in some more revenue to purchase my own at the end of the day, but I still have a job and I want to do this co-hosting. So how much time do you need to sit here and actually be impactful and effective?
Yeah, of course. So one thing that I should have mentioned earlier when you were asking me about what I look for when I bring on a new client, right? So I said the branding, it makes $85,000 more, but there's a third and very critical one that got brought to my attention the past like 2 or 3 months. You want to avoid, they're called HMOs, high maintenance owners, right? The people that are always going to be calling you and complaining if you bought an extra roll of toilet paper. Why the hell buy an extra roll of toilet paper?
What did you call them? HMOs?
They're all right. I can't take credit for that abbreviation. Somebody told me that.
That's what the conversation with the healthcare quick. You got the HMO plan. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, man, you're good. So you gotta avoid HMOs, because if you have 10 clients that aren't HMOs and you have one client that is an HMO, it's gonna be the exact same managing those 10 clients compared to that one HMO. So you gotta avoid those at all costs, because that's very important. But if you don't have an HMO, just think about yourself. When you go on vacation, you go to an Airbnb, you have a self check-in door lock. You type in your code, you go in there. Maybe you can't find the Wi-Fi code, but if you're a proper manager, you have that written out for them. Other than that, the majority of the time, the guest isn't really reaching out to the host. It's pretty hands off. Maybe you do a little bit of revenue management through Price Labs or Rank Breeze, something like that, just to make sure you're staying top of mind and at the first page of the algorithm. but it's really not that much time. The only time that really takes up a lot of your time, I would say, is the onboarding process. The onboarding process is just a lot of work and a lot of time, because little things that you don't think about always seem to pop up. So we've been building out like a little bit of a course recently, hoping to launch it in like fall time, just about like helping out with the onboarding process, how trying to get new clients and like how to manage places properly. But other than like the guest communication, people think that's a lot, but it's really not that much. It's just getting people onboarded as long as you have the right systems in place, Lenny.
So just for like the listeners, can you clarify what onboarding process means? So and like what that entails, so that people can kind of get an understanding of like, you know, how they're setting everything up.
Yeah, definitely. So it really depends on like the market, right? So we have a few steps in our process. So the first process is the initial call, cold call, and then I set up a follow-up call, which is like getting to know them more, building that rapport. And then at the end of that call, I try to close them. And then they're like, yes, let's do it. Then me or somebody from my team will go over to the actual property and walk through it, make sure it still fits our brand. If everything looks good from there, then we send over the DocuSign. They sign, and then we just have to get all this different information about like the actual property itself, make sure they have the right number of towels, the right number of bed sheets, make sure they have like the taxes filed with the city, have to get their bank account number so that we can pay them out. There's just so many small details that you just don't think about that really holds you up and ties you back, which has kind of like been a little bit of a pain point for ourselves. So we're really getting focused on like our systems and processes and making sure that that's seamless moving forward. But just think about if you were to buy your own Airbnb, all the different things that you would have to like get done. It's the same thing. You're just doing it for somebody else.
Cool. So let's stick there for a little bit. So obviously becoming a co-host, you're going to get your, I don't know what you charge, 20 to 25%, right, of gross revenue. And then is there other lines of revenue as well? Example being, you know, onboarding. Is that an additional cost? Or is that just once you sign a contract kind of all, you know, within that 20% that you're going to be receiving, you know, from the gross revenue?
Yeah, another great question. So in the beginning, I was trying to charge an onboarding fee of, I don't know, I think it was like $1,000 or something. And then I was trying to charge a technology fee of $100. And then I was trying to charge the gross amount on nightly rate as well as like cleaning fee and everything like that. So I was trying to charge all these fees. But like when I realized it, I really broke it down. Like I want to cause the least amount of traction, like issues with like a potential new client in the beginning, so I can get them onboarded as quickly as possible. So pretty much what I do now, no onboarding fee, no technology fee, 20% only based on the average daily rate, not off the cleaning fee. And what happens is there's so many other managers in this market that aren't doing that. And like whenever I pitch that, and then I also say, hey, I invest in short-term rentals too, it levels the playing field for me and like gives me a little bit of an advantage. So right now, like I'm not focused on being greedy and just getting as many fees as possible. I'm more focused on scaling and acquiring as many clients as I possibly can, because the goal is to have 37 properties under management before the end of this year, and that would put us well over like $500,000 in revenue. So, well, that's what I'm focused on.
Boom.
No, that's great. Boom. Yeah. No, I think that's great. I think that's a great model. I think sometimes people kind of overlook. They're looking to just make, you know, some money or, you know, generate revenue, and then they overlook like, you know, the value proposition that you're actually offering. And you know, once you have your systems in place, it's easier to scale. So if you scale, that's, you know, you'll build revenue that way. So I love that approach. So what's like next for you? Like, you know, you're continuing to do this. You got the 37 goal. Is there anything else kind of in the horizon, or is there anything else that you're currently targeting, kind of like where we are in the current market?
Yeah, man. So there's a few different things. So really want to get this co-hosting thing up and running, have that smooth. That course, that mastermind, I want to put that together sometime towards like the fall of this year. And then I have like two passion projects I'm working on right now. Is like I want to have a mastermind retreat in Medellin, Colombia, which is like mainly very high level like investors, right? So we rent this mansion in Medellin and it looks over the city. And so the goal is everybody comes out on like a Friday, do like a networking thing, like Friday evening. Saturday, everybody comes back and speakers are there, give us like a little presentation on how they got started and what they're doing. And then the whole essence I really want to solve is just like networking with like very high individuals in like each market. And then not really tied around like how the SDR conference was like very educational. I want to be more network facing and like in very cool locations. So some of them like working on in the background right now. And then long-term vision, like goal, like 5-10 years is I'd really like to develop like a resort somewhere in either Tulum or Colombia or something like that. I have a friend that's doing that right now in Tulum. It's freaking awesome. So I want to do that one day. So, yeah.
That's great. So what Omid and I need you to do is go on record while we're recording this that you're going to allow us to stay at your Tulum location for free. So let's say let's hear it. Let's hear it. Come on, let's hear it.
All right. I'll tell you what. So today is June the 5th, 2023. By December 31st of 2028, which is 5 years from now, when I have my resort, you both can be the first guest to stay there.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, I love that.
On camera is recorded. We got it.
Yeah.
We're going to bag this up. We're going to mail it to you in 5 years to make sure that this goes through. But no, man, I love where your head is, man. I love everything that, you're doing. I think it's really super great. And with that being said, got a question for you. What does find your freedom mean to you?
Yeah, it means multiple things, but I think the biggest thing is just being able to do what you want when you want, as often as you want. And it really boils down to that, right? Like, what is most important to you in your future? And when you get to your financial freedom, you're able to have those things in front of you. So that's what I would say. Your ideal life.
Yeah. So Austin, if people can't find you in Colombia, if they can't find you West Palm Beach, North Carolina, Hollywood, Chicago, where can they find you? How do we connect with you?
Yeah, you guys can find me at Austin Palacios _ on Instagram, AustinPalacios _, or you can email me at apalacios@theluxcohost.com.
Excellent. All right, man. So, at the end of the show, we do this big boom session. So the objective of this boom session is to bust out some speakers. So you're going to have to bring it from the lungs. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3. We all going to say boom in a uniform manner. All right, y'all guys ready? Everybody take that deep breath. Listeners, for the individuals who can't see us right now, everyone is taking a deep breath, and I advise you to turn your volume down. All right? So let's do it, fellas. 1, 2, 3. Boom! Awesome. Check this out. We just had a fantastic episode with our guy, Austin, and he is moving on to some big things. He got the co-host company up and running. All those clients he got so far in this short period of time in 90 days is just show his dedication and show how serious he is. He's no different than any one of us. He's just an individual that wakes up every day with a dream and go after it, and you can too. So make sure you connect with him. He puts out some fantastic reels, just providing you just with, once again, that confidence, that education that you need to move forward. So that being said, we have our Freedom Kit for you. It's absolutely free. All you have to do is go to www.findyourfreedom.com /freedom kit. Once again, www.findyourfreedom.com /freedom kit. Now, one of the things that we're going to need from you is an honest 5-star review. We also need you to subscribe. We need you to share. We need you to take this link and send it to everyone in your contact list, all right? Share this with all your coworkers, the ones that you like and the ones that you don't. Until the next episode of Find Your Freedom, we talk to you soon. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to Find Your Freedom. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, please help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review and sharing the podcast with friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, get out there and find your freedom.